especially if you look into the Gen Zs, right, who are currently the people whom we mentor. There are a lot of things that, in fact, has made it, I won't say imperative, but very close to necessary that they should join a coaching institute. And why? The very first thing is distractions, multiple distractions, right? It may be the social media thing, it may be the shorter attention span. In fact, you might know that better because you do quite well on the YouTube shorts and Insta Reels part. Okay, so the reason is that the shorter attention span. Okay, and then you have the discipline part, especially post lockdown. I think there has been a big miss out on that particular factor. जब MBA आप बोलते हो तो लोगों के दिमाग में एक ही होता है, प्लेसमेंट, right? And maybe the tag. So that is very unfortunate, and that is the reason that some of the MBA candidates, they struggle even after doing an MBA. I think it's high time that we need to redefine what actually doing an MBA means, right? Of course, placement is an important metric. I'm not saying no, but you have the networking part, you have the brand part, you have the learning part, right? So those are also quite crucial. If your attitude is not correct, you go to an IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, Calcutta, Jamlalal Bajaj, or an HBS, or an INSEAD, or a Kellogg's, you will be unpleased, right? अभी चम्मच मुंह में डालो उतना ही बाकी रहेगा फिर, that if that's the case, right? It's basically an upskilling program for 2 years, and I cannot expect that I'm going there just trying to chill around. Many people ask us कि आप अभी थोड़ा बड़ा हो गए हो, how do you manage personal mentorship for so many people, right? And the answer to this is AI. In fact, we are one of the limited institutes in the country wherein we have a hyper personalized AI platform, right? So we have taken help of a few developers, and we have tracked this, wherein when the student comes to the institute, the very first session that happens is a AI based psychometric assessment.
Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Saurabh Pol. Welcome to Polke Bowl. Today I have with me the founder of Toppernicus, Aniket Jondhale. Aniket was in JBIMS batch of 2018. We were together for 1 year in JBIMS. I was 2017 batch, he's 2018 batch. Aniket has worked across multiple companies in MNCs, and he started his own MBA coaching classes today, right? And Toppernicus is much more than an MBA coaching class. And in today's session, today's podcast interview, I really hope to connect Aniket with a host of people who are aspiring to become MBA grads, and also tell us more about what's going on in the industry. But before we get into all that, Aniket, thank you so much for joining us. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, Saurabh, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I think, in fact, I should thank you that you invited me on this particular podcast session. And first of all, I should thank you that you pronounced my surname quite correctly, because most of the people don't get it right in the in the first go. So, in fact, I happened to watch a few of your podcast sessions earlier, and I would like to appreciate, especially the content format that you cover. I think, unlike the other podcasts, I believe that it's much more engaging, and you touch base quite a few. So very soon, I think we may see a transformation of Joe Rogan experience on this particular channel. So thank you so much, and very excited to be a part of this conversation. Yeah.
That's great. Aniket, a bit about yourself, your background, and why did you start Toppernicus? What is Toppernicus? And, go on.
Yeah. So I won't talk too much about my personal details, वरना वो interview ना लगने लग जाए. So basically, talking about like a very short story about my background. So typically, to put it in a very simple line, I would say, आप में से काफी लोगों जैसा coming from a middle class family, a service class family, wherein the motto was simple: पढ़ेगा इंडिया तो बढ़ेगा इंडिया. So the emphasis on education was always there. So with God's grace and with some efforts, did well in education in school, colleges. By 11, 12 standard, so in fact till 10th standard, I was very clear that I want to do medicine. So MBBS करना है ऐसा करके. So 11th standard में I don't know मैंने किन से बात की थी and what was my logic, but today when I look back and reflect, it come out to be a very silly reason. मैंने 11th पे सोचा नहीं अभी MBBS नहीं करना है, and the reason was कि बहुत पढ़ना पड़ता है MBBS में जाने के बाद, the 5 years and then उसके बाद, and then I dropped that idea. Then I went to the next best idea that I had. So I did my pharmaceutical education, graduation in pharmaceutical sciences, that is B Pharm. एंड आज भी बी फार्म लोगों को इतना ज्यादा पता नहीं, उनको लगता है वो कोने पे जो फार्मेसी स्टोर वाले अंकल बैठे होते हैं उनका कोई प्रोफेशन है. सो इट्स अ टिपिकली अ 4 year graduation program that I did. And while I was in my second or third year, I was then starting to ponder कि आगे क्या करना चाहिए, because that was very crucial. And I talked to a few of my seniors, super seniors, and then I realized कि pharmaceutical industry, it's a branded generic industry, so you don't have much of an innovation or research in India as such. So let's say a year 1, year 5, year 10, you'll be doing the same stuff. So I thought maybe that would be quite mundane for me and I should do something exciting which matches my thought process and personality. I got to know about MBA, और मुझे ये भी बताया गया कि अगर MBA करना है, don't do it from any college, please do it from the top 20 or 30 P schools of India. So then I appeared for all the fancy exams that you write, CAT, ZAT, NMAT, SNAP, वगैरह. So the best bet that I had while I was preparing was Bajaj. So then I got into Bajaj, and the rest of the things followed. So I joined Abbott as a sales trainee initially. I did my sales and then I switched to product management. And therein the entrepreneurial bug, it bit me. फिर वो कीड़ा था कि चलो कुछ करना है. And it started out from there. So to answer the second part जो आप पूछ रहे थे कि uh, how about the Toppernicus journey? How did it start? To be very honest, I don't have a very masaledar answer to that. But yeah, to put it into perspective, I thought there were 3 to 4 things. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम जब भी कोई decision लेते हैं, it is backed by multiple factors, right? The very first thing was definitely my inclination towards coaching as a profession. So even while I was preparing, मैंने 1 साल का gap लिया था, and I used to mentor students for banking entrance exams. You might have heard of SBI PO, IBPS PO.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
used to
yeah, of
mentor
course.
students for that, and it was quite a satisfying experience, I would say. In fact, it helped me in the other exams as well. एंड उस टाइम पे तो स्टूडेंट्स यूज्ड टू लाइक, उनको अच्छा लगता था कि मतलब अच्छी मेंटरशिप आ रही है. एंड देन लेटर ऑन इवन फाइनल ईयर एमबीए में, एंड इवन ड्यूरिंग एबिट टाइम्स, व्हाट आई यूज्ड टू डू इज वीकेंड पे जब मुझे टाइम मिलता था, आई यूज्ड टू मेंटोर अ फ्यू स्टूडेंट्स, बेसिकली किसी का कजिन, किसी का रेफरेंस थ्रू.
Yeah.
And within a period of 2 to 3 years, almost 20 plus students got into tier 1B schools. I used to just
Wow.
mentor them. It was not a coaching per se. So
Okay.
then I
Okay.
thought कि comparison is a very bad game in life, I think. तो मेरे पास एक साइड पे I had that corporate job and other side I was doing this gig. And then that comparison started. I think आजकल बहुत जल्दी वो अर्ली लाइफ क्राइसिस हो जाता है. यूजुअली वो पहले मिड लाइफ होता था, अभी वो करियर के स्टार्ट में ही हो जाता है. And I started comparing things, right? So the satisfaction angle, the impact angle, right? And I thought somewhere down the line that maybe I could do well here. But then I thought that I should take a very wise decision because I was doing really well in Abbott. In fact, I was handling 2 brands north of 50 CR at that time. So I thought कि चलो मतलब I should do an MVP first. So I tried garnering maybe a few responses from 30 plus students at least, जिनको कोचिंग की जरूरत है from my side. And I लगभग मुझे 35-40 स्टूडेंट्स ने इंटरेस्ट दिखाया that they want to be a part of the coaching program. And I was satisfied. Luckily, I pitched into one of my batchmates, Sachin, who also happens to be a JBIMS alum, and he agreed. So then, we started from there, and slowly we kept on building. So that's the basic storyline how it happened.
Wow, that's superb, because most people think entrepreneurship is something, कि सब कुछ बेच बाच के करना होता है. But the reality is oftentimes, because see, most people hide the fact that they have had some sort of privilege. Like you earned that JBIMS ka degree, okay, completely give you that. But once you are out of that college, more or less, you have a lot of privilege over most people across around you, right? And as you said, right, you are handling big brands in that MNC, huge pharma MNC company that you worked in. And we do have someone from my batch also who was with you in the same company, right? And
Right.
it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. I know how hard both of you have worked in that company, but I also know that you did get compensated pretty well for right? Compared to
Yeah.
the standards that are prevalent
Right.
over here. So start from there thinking, you know what, like I want to start something of my own. I have a massive respect for you because you did not just dump everything and did this reactively or instinctively or impulsively. You were like, boss, MVP karenge. The MVP, for those who don't know, is minimum viable product. So you basically were like, you know what, let me try this over here in my part time and let me see if this thing has legs. And if it does, then we're going to ride it, which is what you did, right? And then you found
True.
someone around you who, like Sachin, who had the same vision as you, and you started it. So that is like kudos to you, Aniket, because I personally have a lot of respect for people who start something of their own, and you are actually helping out people even before Toppernicus, right? You were helping out people, getting into B schools and all. So I know there is a lot of that feeling of satisfaction that you get कि मेरे वजह से किसी का कुछ भला हो रहा है. But it's even better where किसी का भला और अपना फायदा हो. So I think that is where Toppernicus helps with that because it's also sustainable. It's
Right.
people are like, oh, फायदा करा रहा है. अरे वो sustainable नहीं होगा ना फिर. आपको अगर
Right.
people are like, oh, you're profit minded, yes, of course you're profit minded. How else are you going to sustain or scale? So that is
Right.
absolutely amazing. Can you tell us more about Topicus in the sense that why is MBA coaching needed here? Let me let this not be a sales pitch. My question to you
Yeah.
is, why is MBA coaching even required, Aniket? Because you have started it. We know many other JBIMS alums themselves who have started it. So many IIM alums have
True.
started it, and they have done so well. And कोई भी start करे, more or less it's like very hard to fail in this game. Let me be very frank, right? Hard work तो
True.
insane है, but the supply is so much, it's not even funny. But the quality that is in the market is not that great, if I'm not wrong, right? From what I've
Yeah.
seen. So, and you can be classified as a boutique, an independent coaching institute
Right.
compared to the big ones that you have, right? Like I went to both Time and IMS, and they were both nice in their own ways, right? So my question
Yeah.
to you is like, okay, why is coaching needed? Let's start with that. Why can't someone just sit and do it on their own?
So I think that's a very valid question. In fact, to first really try to find out the answer: is coaching really needed? So ultimately, to answer this, I would like to say that so that is the reason that we classify ourselves as someone who is into the game of coaching and teaching. Okay, so if you look into, so to explain you in a better way, in fact, I gave this analogy very recently, so I'm able to come up with this. So in case you watch tennis, okay, so there was this one analysis that was done on tennis. This was year 2011. Okay, so what they found out was, so at that time, rank one, seed one was Roger Federer. Okay,
Yes.
and if I'm not mistaken, rank 10 was Juan Del Potro, right? And then, so this is basically comparing it with the other type of games like the racket sports, like table tennis, badminton, squash. So at that time, Roger Federer, if I'm not mistaken, I think he earned somewhere close to $50 million, right? That was his revenue annual. Juan Del Potro, who was C10, he earned, I think, roughly 15 million, $15 million. Now, let's compare this with the rank one, the average of the rank one of maybe table tennis and badminton and squash, right? The rank one, I'm not even talking about rank 10. The average revenue that the rank one of the other sports earned was 900K dollars, right? Less than 1 million. Now,
Yeah.
just look at the difference, right? Now, what I believe is that it is not important. They say it repeatedly. It is not about what to play, how to play. It's more important about where to play and which style to play, right? So, मतलब मैं वही analogy coaching में भी apply करता हूँ. See, in fact, you pointed a very correct thing in today's age wherein you have content for free, right? You go to YouTube, MBA coaching to दूर की बात है, you can code an entire high tech thing, right? Matlab, you don't need any coaching institute for that matter. But there are a lot of other factors that are involved. Like I said, it is more important to, so you know what to play, but then how to play, where to play, that becomes very crucial, and that is where coaching comes into picture. Especially if you look into the Gen Zs, right, who are currently the people whom we mentor. There are a lot of things that in fact has made it, I won't say imperative, but very close to necessary that they should join a coaching institute and why. The very first thing is distractions, multiple distractions, right? It may be the social media thing, it may be the shorter attention span. In fact, you might know that better because you do quite well on the YouTube shorts and Insta Reels part. Okay, so the reason is that the shorter attention span. Okay, and then you have the discipline part, especially post lockdown. I think there has been a big miss out on that particular factor, and the other things as well, right? So of course one may know what to study, but then being able to identify what are the deficits in my preparation, what should I do well, in fact I'm not doing well, am I in a position to identify कि how can I do even better. Let's say मेरे mocks में score आ रहे हैं 100 में से 80, I'm preparing really well, but there comes a threshold जिसके ऊपर मैं नहीं जा पा रहा हूँ. So what do I do next to make sure that I up my game, right? So that is the overall thing, and I believe coaching of today, in fact we say this repeatedly, has to do more with the personalized improvement plans rather than teaching. So, to not go into the pedagogical vocabulary, but I think teaching is a more one-way process, and the more traditional way of learning. I think when you combine it with mentorship or with training, that is when the magic happens for the Gen Z guys, at least, right? Because content to hai, it's not about content; it's about that mentorship, and hence, in fact, at Toppernicus, we have a concept called as diet calls. In fact, if you are not one among me, so people like us, wherein we join gym on the 1st of January and then 2.5-3.5 दिन बाद हम छोड़ देते. I think in between when I when I interacted with you, I think you are quite a regular into that. So मुझसे वो नहीं हो पाया है. So you might have been to a gym and you might have seen different type of clients, right? So one of them would be there to lose weight, one of them would be maybe to participate in a Ranji tournament, one of them would be to bulk up, right? Now, would the diet be same for everyone? Obviously no, right? So how can we have the same teaching style? How can we have the same content that is being delivered to each and every student? For example, let's say we have a Saurabh and we have Aniket. Both of them are students in the class. Saurabh, let's say he is very good in verbal reasoning. Let's say Aniket is good in logic, maths. How do I cater to the diversity of knowledge that is there? And for that, you need the personalized mentorship program. And Diet Call is one such initiative wherein every week you are assigned one mentor, and then everything about your preparation is tracked. And to answer your question in short, I would say where do we mark ourselves different is the same thing, making sure that we are able to create that space of mentorship and elder brother figure wherein the student can come to us and discuss not only about English maths reasoning but also about मेरा प्रोफाइल अभी ऐसा दिख रहा है क्या करे, मेरा कम्युनिकेशन अभी अच्छा नहीं है तो क्या करे. इनफैक्ट अभी 2 दिन पहले एक गड़बड़ हुई थी. सो देयर वाज दिस वन स्टूडेंट हु केम टू अस. He had his diet call and he was lost for the last 2 to 3 weeks and we could figure that out. तो हमने उससे पूछा तो बोला कि सर एक्चुअली ऐसा हुआ है कि he had his breakup. Right now, these are some things that you cannot discuss usually, right? Parents के साथ भी वो नहीं करेगा, close friends से तो शायद करेगा. We were somehow able to get him out of that particular thing. Hopefully, I think he should be able to do such things. So basically what I'm trying to explain is having that mentor, elderly brother figure who can guide you throughout the journey so that you know where to play, why to play, and how to play. So that is a broad answer to answer your question.
Wow, that is a beautiful answer. And honestly, Aniket, that really resonates with me because I always you're absolutely right. तुम Google मारोगे, ChatGPT करोगे, the content is endless. But what I
Right.
think you guys have struck upon your model is like, bhai, you have to be a partner in their journey. What you guys are doing is you're
Right.
partnering in their journey, which frankly, like the larger institutes cannot do. I'm not saying the larger institutes are not
True.
good. I myself have benefited from them, right? I think the large institutes have their own place, I think, but what you are giving, and I think which is very much needed, especially for Gen Z, I personally feel, and I think something's happened to everyone's brain after 2020. It's not just Gen Z, it's not just Gen Alpha. Even I am not the same person I was in 2019. I don't know about you.
True.
Maybe you are. I mean, something has gone right and something has definitely gone wrong. And it's like after 2020, I think it's very important that if someone has brain fog or something of that sort, or attention span has gone out, it's very important to gain it back, and you need someone to constantly mentor you. And speaking of gyms, right? I have a gym trainer at this point. Now, this the first time I took a gym trainer was 2013. Okay, it's
Okay.
2025 now. Okay, 12 साल हो गया है. वो same 12 exercise होता है. मतलब there are multiple exercises. There are 100 variations of those. But these are the basic things. कितना भी करो, and I've had multiple trainers in that period, right? Last 12 years. But the reason I got a trainer this time was being very honest with myself. It's like I don't need training. What I need is a guy to yell at me. कि अरे किधर है? किधर है? 10 बज गया, किधर है? तू 9 बजे आने वाला था, झूठ बोलता है, साले आ जल्दी. And if I am someone who is like crying and bitching and moaning at 8, like 7.5, he's like, bhai, ye to kuch bhi nahi hai, 12:30 kar. And I want someone to push me. I want someone to tell me what I may or may not know. I don't know my limits, but being a normal human being, a very normal human being, I'm like, नहीं करना यार, बस हो गया, 7:30 में सब 10 के लिए हो गया, वो मार मार के मेरे से कराता है. So I look at my trainer like that. So I think what you are trying to do is be that guy for most of your students, and I think that is very much needed. And one thing people don't realize is, I'm gonna say it, for MBA prep and MBA entrances, maybe you can disagree with me. Being smart is fine. What is even better and what often makes the difference is how hard are you going to slog for it. At one point of time, it ultimately becomes a slugfest. It just literally becomes कौन कितना घिस सकता है, कितना तुम fight मारोगे, and that's ultimately it's about कितना तुम fight मारोगे. And fight मारोगे doesn't happen here. It is इधर कि you have to
Right.
wake up at 5 a.m. and just give it a shot, and oh shit, nmat घटिया गया, snap घटिया गया, क्या करूं अभी, अभी तो मेरा सिर्फ CET बाकी है. So you have to probably you forgot to fill a form, like it happened with me. Like I forgot to fill a form in one time, so I forgot to click on the preferred colleges, like all sorts of stupidity I've done in my life, right? So
Right.
so
Right.
the
Right.
moment I have to mentally recover from it and all, that is something which I personally believe coaching institutes definitely help. So I get where you're coming from. I completely understand.
Right.
My you know my next question would be, Aniket, right? Like, are you happy as an entrepreneur? Is it easier than working in an MNC?
Definitely, I think it gives me a lot of satisfaction, to put it very simply. And in fact, I get often asked upon this particular question, ki, are you doing well? Like, are you satisfied? Uh, in fact, one of the reasons, like I told you earlier, why I decided to, in fact, pursue this was the same thing. I think it's very difficult to arrive what your passion is at that particular point. Of course, I won't say that I have been able to decipher that, but yeah, I think I'm a very close point. This is something, in fact, I'll tell you one short kissa. So while after MBA days, I think we were sitting along with friends, and so I usually, I'm a teetotaler. I don't drink. I don't have those addictions. So basically, I was asking, "Yaar, why don't you drink?" Okay, I said, "No, no, I don't need that." Right. So and they said, "But tu high kaise hota hai?" Right. And it stuck me. And so
Right.
few months down the line, I had the answer कि मुझे high मिलता है when I train students. So I won't be lying, but in case even if I train students at a stretch for, let's say, 12 hours, it's quite satisfying for me as an individual. And I think couple that up with the professional growth, so that takes care of the other things. So I'm quite satisfied. And to answer the second part that you asked, that how would you compare it with the job thing, I have a very strong perspective on this. Very often on LinkedIn आजकल हम देखते रहते हैं that people, they keep on taking a polar decision, right? Maybe job अच्छा नहीं है, you are a slave to a company and all that stuff. Well, let me tell you, it's never this or that, right? So, in fact, like I told you earlier, I was doing really good in Abbott. In fact, a couple of my managers, they told me that in case you decide to stay, you'll do quite good. Okay, so it's more about, do you really feel that that is your calling? And to
Hmm.
identify that is quite difficult, because usually the grass on the other side is always green, right? आप जो कर रहे हो, usually जो जॉब कर रहे वो मुझे कॉल करते हैं, दोस्त बोलते हैं यार तेरा तो बढ़िया है, तू तो जब चाहे
Hmm.
छुट्टी ले सकता है, तुझे कुछ ये नहीं है. बट अल्टीमेटली आई बिलीव इट इज नॉट अबाउट दिस और दैट. Both of them, they
Hmm.
have their own pros and cons. It is more about, is that particular thing meant for you, and have you found the right calling. I think for me, again, it was not in the first go. Even like 1-2 साल होने के बाद भी I was, there were times when I was contemplating कि did I take the right decision. But then with passage of time, when I got to do much, then I realized that yeah, I think this is something that I want to do. In fact, पहली बार जब मैंने सोचा कि I want to do this, because in my family no one had been into the entrepreneurial space, a very traditional service class family. तो उस टाइम इनफैक्ट माय फादर हैज सेड दिस कि कुछ नहीं, तू करके देख 2-3 साल, नहीं होता है तो वैसे वापस है ही जॉब, right? So that was the typical line that had come into picture. So yeah, to answer it shortly, I would say each of them have their own this. Just the excitement is that I'm able to create an impact in my own way. So everyone have their own style of creating an impact. I'm able to do it in a way which gives me satisfaction, at the same time professional growth. So yeah, quite satisfied so far.
That's fantastic. Good to hear, Aniket. And then my question would be follow up. Like, did your MBA help you reach where you are today? Could you have done it
Definitely.
without that? And has that helped you? Because many people are like, oh, you don't need an MBA for this, or you don't need an MBA for that. My question is honestly, like, you have done your MBA. You tell me.
Definitely, I think 100% the MBA piece helped me. I'm a very strong believer that everything that you do, it finally adds up somewhere, right? So ultimately, MBA, when I say MBA, people usually, again, I have this, I have observed this particular thing कि जब MBA आप बोलते हो तो लोगों के दिमाग में एक ही होता है, placement, right?
Hmm.
And maybe the tag. So that is very unfortunate, and that is the reason that some of the MBA candidates, they struggle even after doing an MBA. I think it's high
Hmm.
time that we need to redefine what actually doing an MBA means, right? Of course, placement is an important metric. I'm not saying no, but you have the networking part, you have the brand part, you have the learning part, right? So those are also quite crucial. So uh, initially when we learned about different things, for example, let's say sales होगा, marketing, operation, HR, जो भी theory सीखी थी, I think that helped me a lot. Because जैसे आपको एक छोटी सी चीज बताता हूँ, लेट्स से MVP की हम बात कर रहे थे. So my knowledge about MVP while I was in the B school was very shallow. Only when I worked upon it, then I got to know कि okay, अच्छा MVP actually ऐसा बनता है, ये होता है. So definitely in bits and pieces it has helped me. And उसके वजह से जो job that I could land up in, उसके वजह से जो मुझे sales operations HR का जो knowledge मिला, in fact I use that quite often till date. So in fact, one of the differentiating points, in case some competitor is hearing us out, would know one of the sources. So in fact, one of the differentiating points why we have done so well in a short period of time, especially in Pune and Maharashtra, is that we function in the same way how a corporate works. So I've seen coaching institutes, they usually work in a very traditional business way, right? मतलब एक टीचर आएगा, पढ़ाएगा, जाएगा. So there are no departments, no organized flow to it. We have made sure that we are utilizing, we are leveraging the things that we have learned earlier. That is one part of it. Second part is network, right? So for example, I run another business called as Grady Upskilling Program, which is in the education space itself.
Hmm.
So therein I have help of around 33, 34 freelance people who work with me, right, to train people on everything. And I think, like you said earlier, the JB tag helps a lot. Whenever I go to a college and let's say I propose on something, it's just the basis of JBIMS that at least I get entertained to throw my pitch in front of them. Right. In addition to that, I think the overall rigor part, the attitude part, the thought process shaping part, these are not talked about much when you go into a B school. So when I entered Bajaj, I think that was the time I realized the importance of shaping my thought process. Right, मतलब कैसे सोचना चाहिए. Earlier I used to think in a very raw way. 10 चीजें हैं, not able to connect the dots वगैरह वगैरह. That is something शायद जो सुन रहे हैं, not everyone would get that, but with time they'll start realizing what it means. Maybe at a younger age you don't relate that, but yeah, with time you. I think the rigor part. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर इंडक्शन के टाइम जो असाइनमेंट्स होते थे, PJA, I still remember pre-joining assignment उसके पहले. In fact, Saurabh, I was just thinking in the afternoon. Sorry to digress,
Yeah,
but
no, no, go
I
on.
was thinking in the afternoon कि सौरभ से मेरी पहली मुलाकात कब हुई थी in Bajaj. So वैसे तो मुलाकात happened because of mentor and your friend. So Bhardwaj happened to be my mentor, a great guy. He mentors me even
Yeah,
till date. So
yeah.
that was the first time. But I think my first memory that I have of having an interaction with you was during my induction process. I think it was the third or fourth day, and you had come
Yes.
in with all that swag. I think you had that even today, till today, you have that typical charisma that you carry. I really wondered after that ki why didn't Saurabh get into the placement committee? So he should have been
I'm happy.
in the peacock.
I'm happy I didn't get in there. Not my space. Not my space. I like to be
So
liked.
getting
I like to be
yeah.
liked. Go on.
So getting back to what I was saying was that there are also these other things, the rigor part that I was talking about, the thought process shaping, the attitude part. So I train quite a few tier 2 tier 3 MBA guys for my other business, right? And I
Mhm.
realize कि मुझे पहले ऐसा लगता था कि मेरे कुछ दोस्त who are pursuing their MBA from tier 2 tier 3, why are they, I won't say look down, but उनको उतना रिस्पेक्ट क्यों नहीं मिलता है? एंड आई थॉट कि यार क्या ही फर्क है 99.92 और 92, इतना ही तो फर्क है. But then later on I realize it has to do more with the attitude, right? For example, you look at a tier 1 grad and he would be like, बताओ क्या करना है? I'll solve it. I'll try to come up with a solution. I'll make sure it gets complete, right? I think ये कुछ चीजें हैं जिसने which has helped me a lot. So जब बाकी के लोग दे से यार अभी बहुत हो गया आज के लिए, we make sure that we complete that. Again, I'm not trying to get into the debate of work life balance या कितने घंटा काम करना
No,
चाहिए,
you
but
should.
what
You
I'm
should. No, that is people should know the reality. People should know the
yeah.
reality, I think.
So but ultimately what I would love to say is, of course, so there are these five pillars. Okay, learning is there, network is there, the brand name is there, rigor is there, attitude is there. So I think these things are nothing but the byproduct of my MBA education, and it has helped me long time. I'll tell you there, in fact, most of the things. So one of my commercial directors, he used to always say, I think this is from a movie, I've not watched it, he said that everything happens twice. The first time it happens is in the mind, the second time in reality. I think it's a quote by Rumi, if I'm not wrong. So basically, काफी लोगों से मैं जब बात करता हूँ, इनफैक्ट जेबी के भी काफी बैचमेट्स है, सीनियर जूनियर्स, वो मुझे पूछते हैं यार हमें भी कुछ करना है, कब करे, कैसे करे? I think the biggest thing, that the first impediment is taking that decision to go for it. And
Yeah.
when you ask me that question कि did MBA help you, मैंने तुरंत हाँ क्यों बोला? Because मैं वो रिस्क क्यों ले पाया? Because I knew that there was a safety net, कि even if I fall, right, that's a big psychological factor, I would say. बाकी तो चीजें ठीक है, वो बाद में आती है, बट पहले तो वो डिसीजन है. आई थिंक एवरी डे आई वाज वाचिंग सम टीवी सीरीज, एंड उसमें मैंने देखा कि एक कॉर्पोरेट सीन था, एंड दे सेड roughly 72% people feel on every Monday that they should quit and start something of their own, right? But not all the 72% start, right? The biggest reason is the same thing, and I think so that answers the question in itself, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good one. That's a fantastic one, right? Like most people, they feel they don't know the logistics of it. Like if you think about I don't know if people know this, Chetan Bhagat and Amish Tripathi, they were both like very very well to do until they got serious about their authorship. They became full time authors only after they were like, okay, I have enough and more money in my bank account that I can go out there and be a full time guy in this thing and in this field, and if I succeed, fantastic, the world is my oyster. If I do not, then it's okay, I have literally millions with me, that's not a problem,
Right.
and I can go back and I can start ये सब ये rags to riches वगैरह नहीं है उसमें. Like maybe their
Hmm.
initial stage was like that, but when they decided to become authors or wanted to do something else, even back then they had a lot of cushion which they earned themselves. So it's a logical way of progressing through life, right? Now, people are always like Girish Matrabhutam from Freshworks. You must have heard of Freshworks, right? And this is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a lot of PR that happens, like a lot of like public relations that happens, a lot of fluff that goes on. where people are like, oh, I started like Girish Matra Bhuttam Katha, this was my second business. My first one had failed. And when I started the second one, I had no, I didn't know if it will succeed or not. And we just thought, let's take a chance. And my wife supported me. Girish Matra Bhuttam was a vice president of product sitting out of the United States of America for Zoho. Okay. When he I mean, you can
Yeah,
like this guy was the vice president of product for one of the leading SaaS companies in the world
right.
back then. Okay, like 15-20 saal pehle. So let's people should know all these things, right? They don't know the basics and they think about entrepreneurship as something which is like all heart and no brain. Dam chahiye and all
True.
of that. Like dam chahiye, no doubt about it. Heart chahiye, jigna
Yeah,
chahiye,
yeah.
but there has to be some logic behind going and jumping into things, right?
True.
So that is my only request to people, and thank you, Aniket, for throwing light upon that and being very honest about it, right? So because in our
Yeah.
country I personally feel emotions sell more than logic, because if you think logically you lose your mind because of our surroundings, let's be frank. So it's a tough place to be logical as a nation, and as a
Right,
country.
right. I think it has to do a lot with the psychology also. So if you look at the way we have evolved, right? So in fact, I was listening to Dr. Huberman, and he was talking about the same thing, wherein he said that why do we like to fantasize things, think more as compared to act, right?
Mm.
Of course, it is because if you're talking about thinking logically versus thinking emotionally, right? So the second part of you would give you a very early dopamine hit as compared to logical one, right? Logical mein socho, structures banao, all that part. So
Pros and cons.
that is true. Right.
So yeah, get your point. That makes sense. So good. You said that. Then my question is, okay, you're doing this, but I have often argued that MBA tag that once was there, even tier one, okay, like forget tier two and tier three. I'll come to that tier classification part also, which is very unfortunate in our country, but it is true everywhere. My question to you is simple: is the MBA what it once was? Even 10-15 years ago, what it once was, and I'm talking about tier one MBAs. Let's stick to that. Is that degree
Okay.
still, does it still have the power? Is it still worth it? Has there been a dilution? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think this is also one more question that, in fact, many students ask us, that is it relevant to do an MBA in today's time, right? So I think to answer this question, one needs to have an awareness of certain things. So, for example, when you're talking about Sheen, now, for example, a student, let's say he comes to us and says that, तो काफी बार ऐसा होता है, student आता है बोलता है, sir, let's say, how is Wellinger College? Wellinger College कैसा है? Now, how do I answer that? Right? या फिर how is, let's say, I am Calcutta? How do I answer that? Because unless and until someone has a metric to define अच्छा क्या और बुरा क्या, I think that is when we can answer, right? So first of all, let's be honest that not everyone can get into IIM ABC. So that is the first thing that we need to realize, right? Second is, the first task, in fact, before even starting the preparation of maths, reasoning, English, one should do is try to have certain benchmarks कि हाँ मुझे इन colleges में जाना है, या and being very practical to oneself, right? कि मुझे इन कॉलेजेस में जाना है, मुझे एमबीए करने के बाद ये पैकेजेस मिलने चाहिए, बिकॉज दीज आर माय स्किल्स, बीइंग ट्रू टू योर स्किल्स, एंड यस देन बेस्ड अपॉन दैट दीज आर द कॉलेजेस दैट आर सुटेबल फॉर मी. आई थिंक पीपल डू द ऑपोजिट, कि मुझे इन कॉलेजेस में जाना है, बाद में फिर उनको नहीं मिलता है, दे गेट इनटू सम टियर 3 टियर 4 कॉलेज, राइट? सो दैट इज हाउ दे डू. उसके वजह से वो ड्राइव भी मिसिंग होता है, बिकॉज दे डोंट हैव अ क्लियर व्हाई, राइट? सो टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन, अगर मैं टियर 1 की बात करूं, इसलिए नहीं बिकॉज आई कोच स्टूडेंट्स फॉर दीज एग्जाम्स, but yes, even till date, tier 1 B schools, they have their own sheen, they have the value intact. Now, I'll help you explain this with a few examples जो मेरे सामने काफी बार आते रहते हैं. मेरे ही स्टूडेंट्स के आपको कुछ एग्जांपल्स बताता हूँ मैं. So one of my students, okay, so she was a lady candidate. She did her hotel management as a part of her graduation. Uh, she was basically raised by her mother. She lost her father quite early, and it was a difficult time. So her mother was basically supporting the family with the help of the tiffin business, जो college और students को tiffins जाते उससे. So mere sustenance, right? So now this girl, she has done her hotel management. Uske baad, the route that she has is either go and start working into the domain of hospitality and hotel management, ya fir come towards the MBA part. Why I love MBA the most? It's like वो एक मम्मी जो सबको अपना बनाना चाहती है, राइट, एंड मेकिंग श्योर कि वो उतना लव भर भर के दे रही है. नाउ दिस गर्ल, she prepped really well because she knew what her condition was. In fact, she passed from a tier 1 B school in 2023. I met her 2 3 months back. She's working with one of the foreign banks. Her package is north of 30 LPA, right? Now, someone should just try and answer me this question. Can someone help me understand a high probable success factor after hotel management, which will give a close shot at getting a 30 LPA? Of course, I know there are multiple options available today. You can be an influencer, you can do something in the tech side by upskilling, vagara. But the odds are quite low, right? I think this is something which is tested. So this is something which is proven, and tier 1 still holds the gate. So that is true, and that is the reason you could see the last year was very tough for all the B schools, not only in India but globally, because of the global slowdown, right? Despite that, all the three ABCs, right, they have made sure that their highest packages was north of 1 CRINR, right? If that would have been the case, then they won't have been able to do that. Now, there would be people who would say, but वहाँ के 5 बच्चे unplaced रहे, 6 बच्चे unplaced रहे, 2 बच्चे unplaced रहे. Well, let us get this equation correct. इस पे आजकल मैंने काफी डिस्कशन होते हुए देखा है. I would talk about an anecdote जो मेरे साथ हुआ था when I got into JB. One of my relatives, he came to my place and उन्होंने एक चीज बोली थी जो मुझे उस समय नहीं समझी, बट लेटर ऑन जब भी मुझे याद आता है आई डोंट फील दैट गुड. उन्होंने बोला था, यार तेरी तो अब लाइफ सेट है, तू तो क्या कर, जब प्लेसमेंट रहेगा तू टेबल पे पैर रख के भी बैठेगा तो भी तेरा प्लेसमेंट हो जाएगा. Now, if someone has this attitude, right, and you have been to a tier 1 B school, you have friends studying in other tier 1 B schools, if your attitude is not correct, you go to an IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, Calcutta, Jamlalal Bajaj, or an HBS or an INSEAD or a Kellogg's, you will be unpleased. Right? अभी चम्मच मुंह में डालो उतना ही बाकी रहेगा फिर, that if that's the case. Right? It's basically an upskilling program for 2 years, and I cannot expect that I'm going there just trying to chill around. Usually MBA में ये होता है, अरे कोई फेल नहीं होता है, क्या फर्स्ट ईयर ही करना होता है, सेकंड ईयर तो होता नहीं. अल्टीमेटली दिस इज द एटीट्यूड विद व्हिच अ स्टूडेंट इज गोइंग, एंड पीपल डू गो टू tier 1 B schools with this attitude. A few of them, the ratio is less as compared to tier 2 tier 3, but people do go there with this notion. And this, if this is the notion, ultimately अगर मैं एक recruiter हूँ, and just imagine if I'm going to a tier 1 B school and I have certain perception कि मैंने अभी तक जो hire किया है 1965 70 से लेके वो इस standard का रहा है, suddenly I meet a person X and I can clearly find out from his interview or from the case study discussion that it is not up to a mark, it's a tier 2 tier 3 level performance. Why should I go ahead and hire him or her? Why should I increase the cost, the budget that is allocated to my human resource department? So it's very practical, right? So tier 1 colleges, they do have their Sheen, provided you work hard. And of course, the factor of competition comes in every year, Saurabh. Even you would agree that. Just to throw some facts, when we were doing our MBA, so if I'm not mistaken, I think CAT takers were close to 1.5, 2 lakhs.
Yeah.
Right? Can you guess what was the number of test takers CAT 2024? It was
I
close to 3
remember
point.
during
Yeah,
our
yeah.
time it was around 1,92,000. I know that much. During our time, that was 2014 is when I last.
Right, right. Close to 2 lakh, 1.5, 2 lakh.
Yeah.
Now it is,
इस बार
last
4
year it
लाख
was 3.4 lakh.
it's increased.
That's a huge, and the number of seats has not increased significantly to justify this hike of 1.5 lakh, right? Similarly with CET, Maharashtra CET, कितने लोग देते? When we wrote, I
Back
think
then it
it
was
was
60.
close to,
Back then 60,000.
yeah, 60, 70,000. Last year, 1.4 lakh wrote MBA CET, almost double.
More
In
than
fact,
double. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact MBA CET से कुछ colleges तो in fact PGDM बन गए, they don't accept CET
Yeah,
anymore. So
they don't accept.
basically what I'm trying to say is the competition factor also needs to be taken into account, right? The quality part, the competition part. If you're going there, if you're going with an aspiration that I want to do really well, I want to be among, let's say, the top 50% of the batch, top 30% of the batch. I want to go and learn. Like MS Dhoni says, it's more about the process, right? I don't know why we are so much obsessed about मेरे को इतने का CTC चाहिए. I understand उस range में वो होता है. But like if you look into HBS, Stanford, INSEADs, all these top B schools, global B schools, there is no fuss about placements. अभी कोई बोलेगा नहीं वो top है इसलिए. ना ना ना. It is about getting those processes correct, getting those learning curves correct, so that वो placement उसको गलती से नहीं भी मिले campus से, बाहर जाके उसको इक्वली गुड प्लेसमेंट मिलने वाला है. सो टीयर वन दे हैव द शीन इंटैक्ट as of now. It's just about what type of candidate are you willing to be once you reach there.
No, I completely agree with you, Aniket. But I have one counter to this, right?
Yeah.
I personally feel that when we joined, I remember the college was like, we are not a placement agency. We are a college. Treat us as such, and so on and so forth. And that is what many colleges used to believe until back then. But I feel in the last 10 years, almost all the colleges have also, with the whole social media boom that has happened since 2019, 2020, most colleges have also like, you know what, we are going to advertise ourselves, whether directly, not directly, but indirectly. So they are definitely advertising themselves as, hey, you join my college, it's 30 lakhs per annum, median, and so on and so forth.
Right, right.
Back, so I will not blame the students also. But if someone goes with that expectation ki ye to mera hai hi, that is stupid. Don't do that. Please don't do that. The placement is extremely important. Let no one be a hypocrite. People are joining MBA colleges purely because it's like, boss,
True.
there is a placement at the end of the tunnel. There is a pot of gold, so to say, and why not? And people who compare us to Harvard, Kellogg, or a Wharton, or whatever it is, right? My thing is simple. Yeah, those colleges are very different from us. Firstly, in those colleges, you need like good 5-6 years of work ex before you get in there. Okay, they look at your proper profiles and everything. And if you are exceptional in that case, and if you have shown that you're worthy of joining this, then they take you. The overall profile thing is more important, right?
True.
The number of applications are also nothing compared to the number of applications which we just discussed, right?
Yeah.
In India, everything is a placement.
Yeah.
Everything is, right? So many things are just about making more money and securing yourself, because we are a poor country. I'll keep calling us a poor country until we reach $10,000 per capita. Okay? नहीं तो मैं सुनने के per annum मैं सुनने को तैयार नहीं है, because we are a poor country. Poor country का people act like they're a poor country का people ना. उधर नहीं है वैसा भाई. उधर they are like, उधर के लोगों को entrepreneurship करने को बोलते हैं. हमारे यहाँ पे रैपिडो को बैन कर रहा है. हमारे यहाँ पे उबर वाला है, वो एक स्टेट में जाने ही नहीं दे रहा है. तुम क्या धंधा करोगे? It's not easy. It's not easy. Even, by the way, you are in the coaching business. In China, they banned coaching in a lot of places
Yeah.
for certain years. You know it, right? Like, of course you do.
Right.
So the thing is that their setup is very different in the West. Even Europe doesn't have this. Europe has too much regulation nowadays. But if America is one place where they're like, jao, dhanda start karo. Fail, it's okay. But in India,
Yeah.
it is like, now things have improved. So it would be unfair on the students. I would say I'll take the side of the students a little bit. But as you said, अगर आपका attitude खराब है when you enter an MBA college, आपका कुछ नहीं हो सकता. And I always say this, yaar, अगर even if you are getting, say, like a 10-12 lakh package, which people feel is bad, by the way, in the country where it's like, what, $2,100 per annum. So उसमें अगर आपको लग रहा है कि 12 लाख कम है, bro, you give 2 interviews, you will reach 22 lakhs ऐसे. आजकल तो वो ये भी निकल गया, that stigma is also gone in the last 4-5 years, that, oh, you are leaving a company in 1 year. I know people
Right.
leaving companies in 6 months and doubling their salaries, god damn it. And nobody minds also in a lot of ways. They're like, okay, starting ye chalta hai. If you make it a pattern, it's a problem. So that's my whole thing. And I completely agree with you, coming back to the original question.
Yeah.
That MBA is still there. Tier 1 MBA still matters, because there is nothing that can, wo saat khun maaf. That is what MBA is, right? Like, you shit the bed, you do whatever, you create a castle before your MBA. It's all okay. Okay, now you're an MBA, तुम्हारा साफ हो गया, your sins have been washed off. Now, now you can be who you want to be and go ahead and do it. So that way an MBA has a power which nothing else has. And technical education, and technical maybe abhi just 4-5 साल पहले जाके वो your coders and all have genuinely they have everyone who's in coding has really benefited. But pehle nahi tha. People used to take 7, 7, 8 years to reach. It was only in the 2019 to 2022 2023 period that those coders and IT folks, they got such a huge boom, right? And
Right.
उसमें भी now it is coming down very quickly. It is coming down because
Right.
क्या होता है ना, in MBA you can be still a generalist. You have to be really good at your work when you're a technical guy, correct? So
True.
that way
True.
that is the power which MBA has. But then the challenge then becomes, Aniket, that I mean every CEO has an executive assistant who is from a top B school. एंड वो मतलब दे आर जस्ट पढ़े हुए हैं. आप किसी भी कॉलेज में जाओ, ऑफिस में जाओ, tier 1 MBAs पढ़े हुए हैं. आई यूज्ड टू बी वन ऑफ देम, राइट? एंड आई यू एंटर विद दोस स्टारी आईज एंड सडनली यू सी, भाई ये तो 4 साल से बैठा है, इसका तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं है यहाँ पे. एंड दैट इज माय पॉइंट कि द एवरेज वैल्यू of a tier 1 MBA, it has gone down slightly, is what I personally feel. So what it means is you have to keep working harder for it. But then what about those who are from tier 2 and tier 3 colleges? What about them? They keep asking me in my comment section कि अरे हम तो tier 2 tier 3, हम क्या करें, हम चले जाए, क्या करें हम? That is my question to you.
So I think talking about tier two, tier three students, what you said is like absolutely correct. Once you enter corporate, you realize, in fact, that is the second part of the story. In fact, I don't talk about that, then my answer would look quite biased, right? So when I say that tier one hai, uske baad, like you said, let's say I enter into the corporate, and if after that I'm not ready to, let's say, work hard, and maybe for the first couple of years it would matter ki aap kis college se ho. After 3 or 4 years, even now, since you have such a rich experience, I think very rarely
Yeah.
would you be asked while you're working on a project ki you're from which college, right? The first thing that would be asked is what were the deliverables, right? What were the outcomes of the previous projects that you did? I think that is a major question that gets asked. So this might come as a reliever for the tier two, tier three MBA grads, that basically, yes, when I said that the tier one tag is rich, yes, it is, but that doesn't mean that if you're from tier two, tier three colleges, dunya khatam hai. No, not at all. In fact, I keep on talking to a few corporate leaders as well, and I've seen that not all of them have completed their MBA from tier one. So, like I said, it's more about the skills these days. In fact, my other business deals with the same thing, right? In fact, there are many students who are going behind the upskilling programs, maybe a 1 year upskilling program or something like that, and they are doing far better, maybe I would say, in the long run, as compared to maybe even a tier one B school grad, right? So, ultimately, let's try to understand business. कोई बिजनेस आपको तब एंटरटेन करेगा जब आप वो आपको जितना पे कर रहा है उससे मल्टीपल एक्स आप उसको डिलीवर करवा रहे हो, राइट? irrespective of you come from any institute. So yes, the initial barrier to entry कम होती है if you are from a tier 1, especially if you are targeting the core cream roles, let's say an IB role, or let's say the treasury roles, or so on so forth. But उसके बाद में आई थिंक स्किल्स कुड बी द ग्रेट लेवलर, राइट? अगर आप खुद को अपस्किल रख रहे हो, मैंने ऐसे काफी लोग देखे जो टियर 1 से है बट दे आर इन अ मूड ऑफ रिलैक्सेशन, एंड वो अभी भी मे बी एक ही लेवल प्रमोट हुए हैं, एंड समवन हु हैज कम फ्रॉम अ टियर 2 टियर 3, ही और शी हैज स्लॉक्ड सो वेल, नए टेक्नोलॉजी से अपडेटेड है एंड इज नाउ डूइंग रियली रियली वेल, right? So to answer it, I would say that the tier 2 tier 3 student should not be very disheartened because of it. It's more about the upskilling after you start your career, and yeah, I think that should take the driving seat as compared to the tag, I would say.
That's a great answer. Then my question would be, how does anyone upskill? हम बोल तो रहे हैं, like these online courses, like how does one upskill? That's my question. I know how I have upskilled in marketing, but in general, Aniket, like if you want to suggest, like, because I personally feel, yeah, all these certifications and all, they're good on a personal level, but HRs and all don't really look at those certifications. And I know people who are spending 30,000 and 40,000 rupees, and I'm like, क्या कर रहे हो यार? एंड आई हैव डन दिस. मैंने 1 लाख रुपए का कोलंबिया यूनिवर्सिटी का कोर्स किया है. किसी कुत्ते ने आज तक नहीं पूछा भाई वो क्या है क्या नहीं. ओके, सो आई मीन इट्स अ जोक, बट या, गो ऑन. हाउ डज वन अपस्किल?
So upskilling, when I say upskilling, I look at it into multiple ways, right? Matlab, I can think of 3 to 4 ways of how you can upskill, especially for someone who has started working or let's say is about to start working in the corporate. सबसे पहले, of course, so let's say you have upskilling on the functional side. So if someone is a project manager, so what are the essential project management tools that I should know so that I do well? Right, for example, B school mein ye hoga that you might know the theory ki what are those terminologies and the definitions, but once you get there, can you bring it onto the table on the application side? So the functional upskilling part, making sure that you are day one ready, right? मतलब आपको जैसे एकदम सिंपल एग्जांपल दूं so that everyone can understand, एक्सेल, एमएस एक्सेल, राइट, बेसिक सी चीज है, काफी ग्रेजुएशन कॉलेजेस तक में सिखाया जाता है, ओके ये, बट लेट्स से इफ समवन सिट्स ऑन द टेबल एंड ही और शी इज अ ब्रांड मैनेजर और उनको एक डैशबोर्ड बनाना है विच ट्रैक्स मे बी सारे स्टेट्स का प्रोडक्ट ए का रिटर्न्स, राइट, इज द कैंडिडेट एलिजिबल इनफ टू मेक श्योर कि वो डैशबोर्ड उससे बन रहा है? Okay, so this is this is the functional plus technical side of upskilling. So you need to identify कि you will be working in which domain. पहले तो वो identify करना पड़ेगा. Let's say if someone is very passionate about consulting, do I know कि मुझे consulting में क्या क्या functional और technical zones लगने वाले हैं, and am I ready with those whatever the tools or the technical things that are required? That is the first form of upskilling. The second form of upskilling, which not many people would love to uh, hear, is the I would say the persona based upskilling, जिसको काफी बार लोग कॉम स्किल्स और वगैरह वगैरह नाम देते हैं. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर प्रोफेसर कपूर, who used to teach us brand marketing. Due credits to him, he used to say that जो दिखता है वो बिकता है, right? And which is the true story ultimately. Of course, you might have all the, like you said, you might have all the fancy certifications on your resume. You might have done quite good work, but then if you're not able to demonstrate that, this is one of the most underestimated thing, I think, especially in tier 2 tier 3 colleges. This is something that one should look upon. काफी बार हम functional के पीछे भागते रह जाते हैं, and we usually fall off the bus in this particular thing. The third type of upskilling has to do with, I would say, attitude oblique mentality. अभी ये काफी लोगों को समझेगा नहीं, but let's say for example, I'm working on a particular project. What is my current tolerance? What is my current stamina to handle that project? Right? It may be in terms of the number of deliverables per month. It may be in terms of the number of actionable items. It may be in terms of the quality of that particular task. Month on month, year on year, am I getting better on the things that I'm ready to take? क्या मेरा professional stamina बढ़ रहा है? Right? Am I able to take good decisions? Right? So that mental upskilling, that attitude upskilling, leadership upskilling, जिसको काफी लोग बोलते हैं, I think that is the third form of upskilling that one needs to learn. And you rightly pointed out, even I strongly believe certifications, I think, I won't say they play zero role, they play minimal role. I think on the job trainings, live projects, that is where the actual learning will happen, right? You need to get your hands dirty to actually start realizing कि क्या सच में आप वो सीखे हो या नहीं सीखे हो. वरना you have all the fancy certification titles on your resume, right? जैसे I won't try to debase any particular candidate, but I've seen कि आजकल engineering colleges में वो काफी projects करते हैं बच्चे, right, on artificial intelligence and generative AI. I was talking to one student, मैंने बोला क्या किया इसमें? He was not able to answer it कि उसने exactly क्या किया था उसमें, right? It was basically anything which even a 10 standard student will talk about, right? So certifications will only make sense when they are executable, when they are on the ground. And I think ये तीन type के upskilling, if you can do it through the module way or the on the job training or through observation, through learning, it is fine. So in fact, upskilling happens through multiple ways. There is no one way to do upskilling. आजकल
Yeah.
upskilling work ऐसा हो गया है which is used like left right center, but upskilling में कोई एक medium नहीं. I think there are multiple ways जिससे आप upskilling होते हो. वरना ऐसा नहीं होता कि एक 34 years वाला CEO इतना knowledgeable लगता है as compared to a 10-year CEO, a 10-year manager जिसने बहुत सारे certifications किए as compared to the CEO, right? So that is how it is.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's a beautiful answer, Aniket, and so practical in nature. So practical in nature because I personally feel very bad when people are misled. And in our country, I think काफी लोगों को बुद्धू बनाया जा रहा है. You know, young kids who are desperate. You know, see, not everyone is like the topper in their class, right? It's impossible. It's relative. Being a topper is relative. You're ranked basically, right? And people come out, they're like, मैंने आज तक top 10 में नहीं मारा मेरे class में, and then they are average students in college also, and then they get into corporate, and then they are like कि भाई मैं तो नहीं कम, and they see the difference between the high earners and themselves. It's massive, and I personally feel it doesn't get covered up that easily. And if you really want to cover up your salary, if you're not from a tier 1 MBA college or a tier 1 engineering college or any tier 1 college, doesn't matter, right? आप नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ डिजाइन से भी हो सकते हो, बट उसमें कितने लोग होते हैं? हार्डली डबल डिजिट में लोग होते हैं उधर हर साल नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ डिजाइन में,
True.
अहमदाबाद में वो भी. सो एनी टियर 1 कॉलेज, आई ऑलवेज टेल पीपल यार, नॉट एवरीवन इज मेंट टू गो टू आईआईटी बॉम्बे, नॉट एवरीवन इज मेंट टू गो टू आईएम अहमदाबाद. सब लोग हार्वर्ड नहीं जाते लाइफ में. So what does
True.
it mean? So you sit down and do nothing in your life? No, you have to now be like, okay, this is what I want to do. Okay, you have to find out what you want to do. People have no clue. People look at MBA as कि मेरा लाइफ में सब फट गया है, अब मैं MBA करेगा. मैं like, guys, like, can you be serious? Like, you must have heard this more than me. कि
Yeah, yeah.
why do you want to do it? हाँ, मैं ये कर रहा था, मैं ये मुझे और ये जम नहीं रहा है, मुझे इंजीनियरिंग तो करना ही नहीं था, पापा ने मार के भेजा. अभी यार मेरे को एक 20,000 की नौकरी मिली है जहाँ पे मुझे मैनेजर को थप्पड़ मारने का मन करता है. मुझे निकलना है, मुझे ये करना नहीं है. अब मैं क्या करूँगा? और अदरवाइज़ इट्स लाइक कि ओह, आई हैव बीन स्टडीइंग फॉर यूपीएससी फॉर द लास्ट 750 इयर्स. मेरा हुआ नहीं है. इट टुक मी 749 इयर्स टू रियलाइज, ओह शिट, आई डोंट वांट टू डू this. So these people, they come and they are like, oh wow, now I'm going to do my MBA. I'm 42 years old or some shit like that. That I've been preparing for 4 years, 5 years, and all. And I made a video on that also. Ki, stop wasting your lives. People do not realize that your 20s are often the most important part of your lives because that will really sort you out for the coming decades. Yeah. Like it gets tougher and tougher, like as you
True.
grow older in life, it gets tough. Like people don't realize it, and it is demotivating. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you the truth, the hard truth. It gets tougher to change your life as you grow older.
True.
It doesn't mean it is impossible. I'm saying it is tougher. So take your
Tough.
20s seriously. Please take your 20s seriously. And this is where I think, Aniket, this is the target audience that you have. People in their 20s, especially early
Right.
20s. Tell me if I'm
Right.
right or wrong on this.
No, no, absolutely correct. I think what you said is absolutely correct. So the same thing, right? So it's more about getting your cards correct, irrespective of the institutes that you go to. In fact, while in 2019, 2018, I don't remember, I was very new in my job. I had read one report which stated that they had done a research on some top 200 or 300 companies across the globe, and they realized that only 38% of the CXOs are MBAs. Forget which MBAs, right? So the rest of them were non-MBAs who were CXO. So definitely, it's अगर business समझे, it is more about कौन ज़्यादा value add कर सकता है. And if you can do that, I think that's good.
Yeah. 100%. And so, which takes me to my next question, right, Aniket? Like, how often should people keep trying for entrance exams? I know this kind of goes against your business model, but I also want to see, like, what are your honest thoughts on this? कि भाई हो रहा है, कर रहा है, धक्का दे रहा है. It's like, भाई, after a point, even the drug dealer is like, भाई कम कर, कितना करेगा मर जाएगा. I'm sorry, but that's my question to you.
In fact, the last couple of months, I have been answering this question very often. जो भी हमारे students थे, दूसरे students थे, यही question आया because results were out and they were like कि sir repeat करे क्या और एक साल, क्या लगता है? So I give them a few litmus test parameters that they should work upon, जिससे उनको खुद को assess करना है कि if they should repeat or they should take an admission. The very first thing I ask them, of course, there's not a quantitative metric to assess that, but of course, on a qualitative basis, one knows oneself. तो पहली चीज मैं उनको पूछता हूँ कि let's say if you prepared for 2024, do you feel the efforts that you put in for CAT 2024, do you believe the efforts were sufficient? मतलब क्या आपका पूरा syllabus हो गया था? क्या आपने 30 plus mocks लिखे थे? Did you get the right mentorship? क्या आपको लगता है कि आपके सारे एरियाज प्रॉपरली टैप हुए थे, या मे बी आपका सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस GDPI वगैरह की प्रिपरेशन हुई थी? इफ देयर आंसर इज अ श्योर शॉट यस, कि यस मैंने काफी एफर्ट्स डाले थे, आई यूज्ड टू डू दिस दैट वगैरह, I give them a bad news that unless and until something eureka happens, there is a very small probability that there would be a larger delta in terms of the marks or percentile that will get created in the next year. Let's be honest. Right? I'm not trying to demotivate guys. मतलब काफी बार मोटिवेशनल स्पीकर्स को बोलने को लगता नहीं है कि चाहोगे तो कुछ भी होगा, बट अल्टीमेटली देयर इज अ थ्रेशोल्ड दैट one needs to realize, right? So I always tell students the first thing. In fact, at Toppernicus, we never mislead students. There have been many students जो admission के लिए आए हैं और हमने उनको पीछे भेजा है. That has been the story, being honest to the platform, right? So that is the first thing. Second thing is, when did you complete your graduation? And अगर आपने recently किया है, then go back to the first question, answer that. If you believe कि आपका 1 year gap हो गया है, so in that 1 year gap, what did you do? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, अगर आपने जॉब किया है, गुड. नहीं किया है तो डिड यू अपस्किल योरसेल्फ? क्या कुछ है उसमें दिखाने के लिए जिसमें आपने किया, राइट? इफ द गैप इज मोर देन 2 years, यूजुअली माई आंसर इज अ स्ट्रिक्ट नो. भले ही फिर वो कैंडिडेट आके बोले कि नहीं सर, बट अभी मेरे अंदर का शेर जाग गया है एंड आई एम गोइंग टू डू दिस एंड दैट. आई थिंक दैट्स अ 2 days थिंग, 2 days phenomenon, right? Because इट्स मोर अबाउट गेटिंग दोज थिंग्स राइट, और आपको पता होता है, आपके दिल को पता होता है वो, राइट? सो दैट्स द रीजन कि वो पहला क्वेश्चन ही सफिशिएंट होता है टू आंसर दैट. एंड देन अगर किसे करना भी है, उसको ऐसा लग रहा है कि नहीं सर, मेरा नहीं हुआ था, आई स्टार्टेड क्वाइट लेट, आई गॉट ओनली 2 months टू प्रिपेयर, देन मैं उनको वो पूछता हूँ कि आप क्या करोगे इस साल, रिपीट करोगे तो व्हाट इज योर प्लान? जैसे कुछ बच्चे थे गो डाउन द रॉन्ग लेन, वो बोलते नहीं नहीं सर ने वर्क एक्स बोला तो हम जॉब लेते हैं, एंड इन दैट जॉब दे विल वर्क लाइक 10 to 10. फिर पढ़ाई कब करेगा तू? तू जॉब ही करेगा क्या? देन यू शुड बी
Yeah.
अ वेरी स्मार्ट इन टाइम मैनेजमेंट, राइट?
नहीं
एंड द
होता.
नेक्स्ट थिंग, नहीं होता है, मतलब मेंटली फिजिकली दोनों अटेंटिव रहना जरूरी होता है. एंड द लास्ट क्वेश्चन दैट आई आस्क देम इज, are your parents supportive of this thing? Because you cannot fight multiple battles, let's be honest. I've seen students, you won't realize this, I've seen students जिनके घर पे पता नहीं है कि वो रिपीट कर रहे हैं, जिनके घर पे ये लगा है कि उन्होंने कॉलेज में एडमिशन लिया है, एंड लेटर ऑन दे गेट टू नो कि उसने कॉलेज एडमिशन नहीं लिया है. वो रोज सुबह लाइब्रेरी में जाता है, वहां पे पढ़ता है, ये कर रहा है. ऑफ कोर्स द स्टूडेंट मे हैव हिज और हर एम्बिशन, बट आई बिलीव एम्बिशन प्रैक्टिकलिटी में डिफरेंस है, राइट? एंड द अर्लियर वन realizes this, the better it is. And that is where the role of mentorship comes into picture, going back to the same initiation point that we happened, right? To realize कि क्या मेरा वो point आया है, am I at the right
Hmm.
point? So I think that
Hmm.
is, those are 4 to 5 things that actually helps quite a few students to assess whether they should go again or not.
Wow, like Aniket, honestly, these are things even I didn't think of, because probably see everyone is different, right? Like because I always knew myself very well, for better or worse. I knew this is who Saurabh is, and this is definitely who Saurabh is not. And it took me a long time to learn about it, but by the time I learned, I realized ki I'm still young. People still don't know who they are. I know my friends who are like, should I do this? Should I do that? I'm like, you have kids. You should know what you should be doing. I'm sorry. But whatever, man, call me conservative. But anyway, the point is the way you explain it is so structured. Please, anyone in the audience, please take this seriously. This will change your life. Thank you so much, Aniket. This was golden advice, right? So, I mean, coming to the last part of the episode. AI is, I always keep talking about AI. People are like, "Arey, chup baithna AI karta hai." But the reality is that it is already running our world, firstly, and
True.
it is going to change our world even more, and it will be indescribable, the changes that are going to happen. Now, you're a business owner, you're a mentor, you're a coach, you're doing coaching classes, right? You're running them. And how has that impacted your industry and your life?
So I think, like you said, I would like to second your perspective that definitely uh, generative AI and the new age technologies are here to transform whatever space that you are into. Right? It may be a corporate space, it may be your personal space, health space, whatever it is. So into the coaching industry as well, there have been multiple transformations that we have observed in the last few years, especially the last 2 years. right? For example, if you talk about the personal mentorship, right? Many people ask us कि आप अभी थोड़ा बड़ा हो गए हो, how do you manage personal mentorship for so many people, right? And the answer to this is AI. In fact, we are one of the limited institutes in the country wherein we have a hyper personalized AI platform, right? So we have taken help of a few developers, and we have tracked this, wherein when the student comes to the institute, the very first session that happens is a AI based psychometric assessment, कि वो सब्जेक्ट वाइज कैसा है, उसकी लाइकिंग क्या है, कंफर्ट क्या है, किस एग्जाम के लिए वो ज़्यादा सूटेबल है. आई वोंट गेट इनटू द एक्यूरेटनेस ऑफ दैट, दैट्स अ WIP ऑलवेज. बट या, सो दैट इज द फर्स्ट थिंग. सो द हाइपर पर्सनलाइज, सो पर्सनलाइज तो दूर रह गया, हाइपर पर्सनलाइज वे ऑफ लर्निंग इज very crucial. In fact, there are when you're talking about trainers, right? In fact, there are a few institutes. We have not done that, but I've heard of certain institutes in the JEE space and other space who have started using AI coaches, right? So basically, you have a personalized AI coach who will make sure that they are tailoring, like you're talking about your gym PT, the personal trainer. Similar to that, you will have a PT AI agent who would be there with you, making sure that in the morning he's coming up, hey, hi, hello, Saurabh. I want to understand what is your plan for the day, kal ke kya queries rahe, and all that stuff. So on and so forth, right? So that is also happening on the JE space. Even in fact, I would say I was talking to someone from a rural area in Ahmednagar, and I got to know that basically one of the institutes in the JE space is planning to come up with the localized language AI mentors, right? Let's say,
Yes.
for example, Marathi hai ya Odia hai, Bengali hai, right? Most of the times, it so happens that, let's say, a session is being delivered in English or Hindi or something like that. So that is also something which is possible thanks to generative AI. Even, for example, the overall, I would say, the performance metrics. तो जैसे in the entire competitive exam space, people get it very wrong. They think it is only about पढ़ाई पढ़ाई पढ़ाई. I think पढ़ाई के आगे
Mhm.
एक चीज होती है assessing your performance, right? कि for example, let's say if there's a Virat Kohli, so Virat Kohli will always make sure कि last match में जो उसने for example off side पे shots खेले थे, next match में how can he better that? And you might have seen in cricket they have so many stats these days that it becomes relatively easier. These are the point, अच्छा थोड़ा ऑफ के बाहर कर दो, निक कर देगा, स्लिप में आउट हो जाएगा, एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ, राइट? सो similar way, AI has made it possible for the student even to assess the emotional as well as the logical point of view, कि these are the areas जिस टाइम पे स्टूडेंट लेसन क्लोज करता है, राइट? मे बी आफ्टरनून का टाइम, दीज आर द टाइम्स जब ये एग्जाम में खराब करता है, and all that stuff. So the AI performance based metrics has also come into picture, and a lot of other things. In fact, it's good opportunities for us as well, because the world has become truly as a unison one body. So even there might be many students from, let's say, abroad who are planning to get into India and planning to do other things. So for coaching institute, it becomes a good way to even reach these guys. So there are multiple things that are happening there. I can think about these 3 to 4 things that are there. But yeah, like you rightly said, in fact, I was talking to a director of an institute last week, and हमारी बात चल रही थी. मैंने बोला अभी मैनेजमेंट बोलना छोड़ दो, अभी you should say techno management, because each and every MBA role, even you might have observed, you keep on hiring people also. So each and every role, be it HR, be it sales, be it finance, a large part of it, earlier it was a very small part, now a large part of it is being attached to the technological aspect of it. I think generative AI and the other technological advancements are here to stay, right? Most of the people may think that this is just another cloud passing by, but I think it has a potential to transform the sector.
Yeah, I mean that's a beautiful point. I mean, if anyone was saying ki this is just a fad, they're bloody stupid. That's all I'll say. They're just goddamn stupid because
True,
this is changing
true.
the world, whether you like it or not. And that's the thing. See, there are a lot of agendas that people have, but anyone who is advising you to ignore AI, please don't listen to them. And that's a beautiful answer, right, Aniket? Like about how AI is really transforming and what is the future. of coaching, basically. That is like really helpful. My last question to you would be, in general, forget MBA, forget everything. What would be your advice to young people in India right now? Just any, it could be anything, right? It could be like time pe so. But what would be one advice? Because, or maybe like 10 years ago, when you were a young man once, abhi to hum log abhi kaka ban rahe hain. But and, my question is, what would be one advice that you will give to young people?
Answering this question like makes me feel grandfatherly. Like, what advice? Because uh,
So I'll
the
tell you why.
challenge
No,
with yeah.
before you start, I'll tell you why. Because I think the world in which you existed 10 years ago doesn't exist anymore. It
True,
doesn't.
true, true.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
10, 15 years ago, what we had, even the college में जो आधा चीज पढ़ाया था, it is, I mean, the basics will always be true, but the technical aspects have been pretty outdated, some of them, right? It's not even the same, So
100%.
that's my question to you. Like, that world you have seen those 10 years. That's my question to you. What would be one advice you would give to people?
Yeah, so maybe I could talk about two or three of them. So I will be talking on this, comparing like or considering the generation that I come across these days, the people who are targeting MBA, or they want to pursue MBA, or they are currently doing their MBA. I think the very first thing is the same thing, upskilling part, right? Because like you rightly pointed out, be it generative AI or any other functional or technological advancement, one cannot shy away from it, right? If they do, there is a very strong chance that the company will turn faces away from these guys. So the upskilling part is very real, and it is happening at a very rapid pace as compared to earlier. So if you look at, let's say 1980 से लेके 2000 तक, maybe अगर वो 20 यूनिट स्पीड से हुआ होगा, अभी it is happening, let's say, at 5,000, 10,000. So upskilling is very essential. Second, I think this may sound a bit cliched, but let me put it out. In the early phase of the career, hard work is super duper essential, right? It's being quite glorified these days कि नई नई smart work है हमारे पास, technology, agreed, those are enablers, those are facilitators, but you should be hungry to learn more and more. I think that is something which I've noticed the students not doing very often these days, not all but most of them, right? And I think one more thing that should be taken care of, especially the people who are starting their career, is financial management, the money management part. मेरे काफी ग्रेजुएशन टाइम के दोस्त, इवन एमबीए ग्रेजुएट, इवन जिन्होंने एमबीए किया है, दे आर कंप्लीटली क्लूलेस. दे आर अर्निंग गुड, बट they don't know that how should they invest their money, because ultimately that is the larger purpose जिसके लिए आपने जॉब करना स्टार्ट किया है, right? So the earlier you get accustomed to that, I think that is very essential. And having that attitude to learn always. And आई थिंक और एक एटीट्यूड के ऊपर बात निकली है, तो मैं बोलूंगा कि एन एटीट्यूड टू थ्राइव एन एटीट्यूड टू एक्सेल, दैट इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट. बिकॉज आजकल मैंने देखा है कि मेरे साथ भी काफी जेंजीज काम करते हैं, राइट? देर आर क्लोज टू 5 to 6 who work with them. I've seen that वो थोड़ा सा हमारे टाइम पे जो होता था कि थोड़ा एक बार और करके देखते हैं, लेट्स डू इट वंस, राइट, वो थोड़ा सा मुझे मिसिंग लगता है. आई फील दैट द पीसेस फॉल अवे वेरी अर्ली. So I think I can think of these 4 to 5 things. And yeah, of course, take your health quotient more seriously. Of course, आजकल काफी लोग ले रहे हैं, I'm not saying नहीं, but I think that is something जो आपको पता नहीं चलता है. Many of my friends, we were discussing in fact a few days back, have been diagnosed with either a fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic, okay, fatty liver disease, or a high cholesterol, or maybe a borderline diabetic or a diabetic state. Health is super important. Once you start working, you cannot give excuses, मुझे काम बहुत है ये. You'll have to find time zones wherein you can work out or whatever you want to do so that you stay fit. So yeah, these are some of the things that I can think of as of now.
No, Aniket, this is like such structured answers I should be learning from you. Honestly, I think I need my own diet plan with you on how to think in a structured
You're
manner.
being too kind.
I mean, this was fantastic, Aniket. I mean, thank you so much. I would say that this is one of the better episodes I've had since I started Polkeball, because this is really going to help a lot of people. Honestly, this is going to help so many people. It's not even funny. So before we end it, like I want to give you the opportunity to talk once again about Toppernicus and tell people about, hey, is it like offline, online, who can apply, who shouldn't apply, where to find you on LinkedIn and everything. See, folks, by the way, everything will be in the description, the links and everything. So that's a different story. But in Aniket's words about Toppernicus and the other businesses that you have.
So Toppernicus is basically, like we discussed earlier, also it's a coaching institute so that we could mentor students who are preparing for MBA entrance exams, right? It may be CAT, JAT, SNAP, NMAT, whatever they are. And basically, we focus heavily on the personalized mentorship programs, right? So the diet calls that we talk about, making sure that the student gets the right mentorship. So we have an offline as well as online model. We are strong in both the segments. In fact, we started as an online segment because we started in during the pandemic era. So we function in online as well as offline mode. Offline mode, we are present in Pune, right? And from there we operate as classroom programs. Online, we are accessible throughout India. In fact, we have students from all parts of the nation. To reach us, you can visit our website Toppernicus, or you can just Google us out. You will have multiple information. We have our Instagram page in the form of Toppernicus_MBA. So you just have to Google it out, and you'll be having all the details. In fact, Saurabh, I was thinking about this in the afternoon, and I dropped a message as well. In case the listeners, if some of them they want to have a clarity on उनको MBA करना चाहिए या नहीं करना चाहिए, first of all करना चाहिए तो क्यों करना चाहिए, कौन से एग्जाम्स देने चाहिए. So maybe my team can do a free mentorship call for all these guys, and I will be sharing a link with you, so you can just put it in the description. It's a Google form link. The students just उनका नाम वगैरह बाकी, and my team will get in touch with them. Just a small mentorship call so that they know कि करना है नहीं करना है क्या करना है and all that stuff. So yeah, that's in short about Toppernicus.
That's lovely, Aniket. That's fantastic. And we'll also put it in the comment section so that if you can't find it in the description, usually your double hota hai. Comment section is
Yeah.
easier. So I'll definitely put it there, and I'll put it as top comment in it. So thank you once again, Aniket. What a beautiful episode. Really looking forward to having you once again, because I'm pretty sure there are many more things that we can talk about. And once again, congratulations on starting Toppernicus long back and continuing to do well with it and impacting people's lives so positively. All the best, and see you soon. Thank you so much, Aniket.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for this opportunity. I think I had a really good time. The conversation was quite meaningful, and I really hope that the audience is able to extract at least some meaningful information out of this. So thank you once again, and yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much, folks. Like, comment, subscribe as usual, and I'll see you next time. See ya.